You can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake.
Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
And Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here is a hand up to Thunder, who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah! 40. It is. 15, 10, 5.
All right, welcome to Cornhusker Corner
podcast.
As you can tell, Blake, Brother Brooks, it's a little bit different. Oh yeah, it's up there.
Yes.
It's a little bit different setup than we usually are. It is Thanksgiving week.
Yes.
They're in town.
Yes.
So at my humble abode.
Yes.
For the first time in Casa de Blake.
Yep.
And everything. So, but we're in good moods,
Yep.
good spirits, because we finally got bowl eligible last week. We were a little bit downtrodden, so we did not record a Wisconsin preview. You called me the night before. You said, "What's going to happen tomorrow?" And I said, "We're going to lose, just like always." And you said, "Yeah, I know. There's no hope for anything."
Yeah. So it's a big deal when even I'm responding like that.
Yeah.
This was a big game. Okay,
Yeah.
It was a huge game, and it was a big deal because I'm normally just a generally positive person about Nebraska football. So if I'm giving it that outlook, then a lot of fans who probably normally wouldn't, we're also probably giving that outlook. But the thing you gotta love about Nebraska football is Saturday comes around, 2:30 starts, stadium's full, it's packed.
Yeah.
And it's hard to not get emotional thinking about it. Literally, it is. Because this was seriously one of the proudest moments I've ever had as a Husker fan. And
I was thinking about that, like with the just the jubilation that happened after the game. You would think that we clinched a spot to like the Big Ten title game.
Yeah.
But that kind of goes to show how far the program has fallen from the prime. And you can have that pessimism, but you can look at it like, no, we had to get over that hurdle because that was like what was keeping us back.
Yeah.
It was a monkey on our back for sure, because it was a national thing. We were the only Power 5 team to not have gone to a bowl in the past 6 years. We had the longest drought of any current FBS one.
I mean, and the season started 5-1, and then we're on a 4-game losing streak.
Yeah.
And on the first game we lose in that 4-game losing streak, you get on Twitter and you see the graphic posted really for the first time this year about Nebraska being 8 years or 7 years since they've been to a bowl game. And the teams they put up there, it's like Nebraska and then like a bunch of FCS teams. It's or not FCS, but like a bunch of, what I mean, a bunch of Group of 5 teams.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, but it's a big deal, man. And man, getting the monkey off of our back, I just think that that was so much easier said than done. I mean, especially for the players, right?
Yeah, especially the players that we didn't have a bunch of roster turnover like Colorado.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah.
Just for instance. And listen, I don't think that's even the right way to go. College football, whatever. Yeah. I'm going to stay away from that. Yeah. But this is the point I'm making. From roster turnover, those people don't have the weight of a program on their back at a place like Colorado, and then the people did at Nebraska, because we did not have a lot of transfers out from the Scott Frost era. Right. So they were there, like the people like Ty Robinson, Nash Huckmacher, people like that were there for 6 years, had gone through all of those ups and downs. And it wasn't just that we were losing, because it's how we were losing.
Yeah.
Okay. And we've said this 100 times. It is much easier to get blown out than it is to lose by one score.
Yeah.
Because a lose by one score, there are so many things that you could have done to win the game that you just didn't do. Yep. That is way more frustrating than going out and playing a better team and getting beat.
Yep.
Way more frustrating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it means there were moments in the game where you did go through adversity and you did come out on the other side. You did have that what's next mentality and you responded well, because you really can't have a 1-score game with a decent team unless you have a few of those moments. But also the other thing about it is the seniors, right? So like the thing I started thinking about was like, oh no, Like I trust Rose recruiting. I trust his building.
Yeah.
But boy, are we losing a lot of people after this year.
Yeah.
And look, if we lost a lot of people after this year, I think what might have happened is, new people come in and then they get us to a bowl game for the first time. And that's fine.
Sure.
But I just think it's so much more poetic and just better for the program in general that our older guys, our leaders, our veterans, many of them recruited by Scott Frost, are the ones who did it.
Yeah.
The Natch, the Ty, the people who have been here for 5 or 6 years, who have been through. I mean, we like to pretend like we have a hard time as fans, okay? And there is a level of like emotional dedication to winning and losing that a fan has. You know what I mean? It's not better than a play, but it's different. It's just different. You know what I mean? It's different.
Yeah.
But players, they go through so much more than we do, and they are there for every single day, the highs and the lows, the tears, the sweat, the blood, all of it. And man, it finally got paid off. I wonder how it felt for those guys. I mean,
you could tell it was emotional.
Yeah.
And that's one reason I'm a little worried for this week. But,
right.
But it was a well-deserved moment that was a little bit delayed. That shouldn't have been this much delayed, honestly. We're about 2 catches away from being little guy. We're about 2 catches away from being bowl eligible 2 weeks sooner.
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And I'll point them out. Touchdown pass against Illinois, and also a missed field goal against Illinois, and then a missed throw in the Ohio State game.
Yep.
To I think, but was it Banks?
A miss. Yeah. The Banks missed throw.
Wide open.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm counting there.
Yeah.
And he missed another touchdown to
two
Ja'Cory.
Two bad no call pass interferences against USC.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you can point to a lot of those things over the last 7 or 8 years. There's
exactly.
been so many of them.
There's things in every one of those games that you can point to
right.
and be like, that's why.
Yeah.
And I just really liked the offense. I mean,
of course, yeah.
We actually looked competent. The play calling was night and day different. They had an identity. You knew what we were trying to do, and we were doing it well. The much maligned, for some reason, offensive line this season, which they've had their moments of being bad, but everybody does, right?
Yeah.
There are very few offensive lines in college football that have dominant plays every single play.
Mm-hmm.
Very few, if any, really.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I can't think of any, especially this year. I can't really think of any. But you have really good play from them, and just dominated from the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, an offensive line that dominates every single play, you're going to win the national championship.
Yeah,
that's literally like what that means, pretty much. That's what Michigan had last year. Now, they were a good team, but their offensive line was really the bread and butter of that team. Yeah. And now we see this year they lose a lot of those guys, and how do they look? You know, and
between that and their defense.
I mean, well, their defense is still, they're kind of like very similar to like how we were in our best Scott Frost teams this year, where they got to a bowl, so they wouldn't like that comparison, right? But the truth is, they played decent defense, and their offense was just so. I mean, there was like a stretch of like 3 or 4 games for Michigan where like they just didn't even have an offense, and now they're putting up 56 points on Northwestern, which we did that, during Scott Frost. It just feels very similar. But anyway, we're talking about Nebraska. It was so good to see. I didn't even get to watch the game in person or live. I was at Texas Renaissance Festival, and I was having Blake. I actually lost my phone midway through the day, and I went back to Lost and Found like at the end of the day, and then just had like all these texts from my brother like describing like the timeline of the game. It's actually really fun to read. But I got back to my car and I turned on Huskers radio network, and it was 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter when I turned on Huskers radio network, and the place was already going Go Big Red. Yeah. And Damon was, Damon and Greg were talking about it. And when I turned that on and I heard the Go Big Red, and I heard Damon and Greg talking about how we're going to do it, like it's going to happen, man, I got emotional, like more emotional than I was expecting to get. I would like for a bowl game, I would not have, but it's just been so long, and we've just been wanting this so much.
And you know what's going to happen now? We're going to go to a bowl game, Get blown out.
See, he's the pessimist on this channel. To be fair, no, we're never losing another game again. We finally have our offensive coordinator.
No, but the offense looked so much better.
Yeah.
Defense made stops when they needed to. It
Yeah.
looked a little dicey there. At the beginning.
Raiola in charge.
Raiola in charge.
Yeah.
Something I will say that he was doing and has been the past 2 weeks. He did it at USC as well. I don't know if you've noticed this, but he's actually stepping into his throw.
Right. No, I did notice
he's
it.
Throwing
He's got like a solid base when he makes his throw.
He's putting a lot more spin on the ball,
Yeah.
which makes it zip more.
Dude, that back of the end zone throw to Jamal Banks
Yeah.
was so nice.
Yeah.
And it was easy. You could tell how
Yeah.
easy it was. He was just boop, and it was
Yeah.
There was one play too. He threw a bullet. I forget exactly what the context was, but I remember thinking,
He
there
threw-
it was. There was a bullet.
He
You
threw a couple over the middle that he zipped in there,
Yeah.
stepped into it. I don't know if that was he probably listened to our podcast.
Yeah, definitely.
Instead, I was like, he needs to stop throwing off his back foot, needs to step into the ball a little bit. And he was like, "Oh my God, he's right."
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the only
That's the
logical
only
explanation.
logical explanation. But no, it's good. That's good to see. I don't know if you have any other thoughts.
Well, I watched
high
the game. And there was a couple of moments where we could have Nebraska'd. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Where we could have just said, "Oh no, this is going to be another one-score game. Oh no, like no bowl eligibility." Like all those types of thoughts. And one of them was when they immediately responded.
Yeah.
They immediately responded. So we go up 7 right off the bat, and they immediately respond. And if I were watching the game live, what I would have been thinking was like, okay, here we go. Time to respond again. And then the offense goes back on the field 3 and out.
Yeah.
And then Wisconsin goes back on the field and starts driving down the field. And we stop them and hold them to a field goal. And then and then the guy misses the field goal, right? Isn't that what it was?
It could have been.
Yeah.
I know they had
we might have made a field goal before this. I remember it being 10 to
how I
7.
remember it is we had a 3 and out. Then they had like a little bit of a sustained drive. Then we got a punt. We got the ball back, and then there was a fumble with good field position. And that's when they missed the field goal.
Bonner.
Yes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, I was talking about moments of adversity. That was another one. Raiola, the one, if you would call it a stupid play, just because it looked stupid. Okay, it looked unconventional.
Yeah.
But look, the ball got there right where it should be, and it was a spiral.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, that's all that matters, right?
Yeah.
And so Bonner didn't play after that, by the way. That was Bonner that caught that ball. And fumbled, and he didn't play the rest of the game.
Yeah, you know who else I didn't see out there at least a lot after they committed a
false
penalty,
start.
a false start.
Thomas Fidone.
Fidone. So what that tells me is they're actually Hogerson's not playing around. He's already said like the people that practice well are going to play.
Yeah.
Regardless of who has been the starter.
Yeah.
Now he did say this week
he's the standards czar.
Yeah. Which again, people can get lazy knowing that they're going to be starters.
No doubt. Shoot, when I was a senior, and I pretty much knew I was going to start, it was hard to not let that. When I was a senior in high school, and I knew I was going to start, it was really hard to not let that creep in. It just is, because you just know, you're going to start, and you know that like, man, if I don't do this extra rep, it ain't going to matter personally for me. I'm still going to be out there. But the reality is, if you don't do that extra rep, you might be running at the quarterback, jump in the air, and miss the ball by an inch.
Yep.
And then it's a touchdown to lose the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you didn't do that extra rep.
No.
The thing that is, though, based off of Dana's press conferences, I don't really think that we have a lot of that problem with this team as far as an effort everyday problem with this team. It's more of a psychology, which boils down to psychology, right? Because they can do it, and they've proven they can do it in practice. But it's a psychological thing. It happens in the game, and they just can't freaking execute. Even Dylan was getting infected by it, missing. Dude, he missed a dozen touchdowns this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I mean, you're not going to be perfect, but
no,
I really like the way it's going. But let's kind of pivot here to some Iowa talk.
Yeah,
I almost said Iowa State.
Yeah.
Some Iowa talk here. Again, it's another Kirk Ferentz coach team. So they do some things at an elite level and some things at a peewee level. Mostly the things that keep you into games. The defense, still very stout. Not as good as last year's defense, but still very, very good. They still have a quarterback issue as they've had for the past decade. I can't remember the last time they had a
they're just you know what you're getting with Iowa. You do. Like they're the opposite of us of what we have been really this year. They are a model of consistency. You pretty much always know what you're going to get out of them. And to the point where, I mean, Dana in his press conference today, he was talking about, he was like, I coached against Iowa when I was the offensive coordinator at Tech in 2001. I look back at that film, look across the field, and there's Kirk Ferentz, and they're who's their defensive coordinator. Anyway, same coordinator and coach and they run the same plays and scheme as when Dana coached against them last. So they never change. Us on the other hand, I really think that the unspoken thing, and a little bit goes back to Wisconsin, but really the last couple games, the unspoken thing about why I'm a little bit more confident going in this game versus Iowa than I was last year, I'll just say, is we seem to have a field goal kicker now. And in a game against Iowa, that helps a lot.
No, and I would really like to see him string multiple games
no doubt.
Back to back.
Yeah.
To be completely fair, I don't really remember the USC game. Did he do okay there?
Yeah, 3 for 3.
3 for 3.
Okay. 2 games in a row.
So 2 games in a row.
2 games in a row, 3 for 3. Yeah.
Yeah, as long as
he was like 2 for 3 the game before that.
Yeah. So as long as he keeps it going, that's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. That's going to be imperative.
Big deal against Iowa.
As far as last I checked this morning for like weather. A windy game on paper, it favors them.
Yeah.
But because we won't be able to pass the ball.
Their quarterback was like a linebacker at the beginning of the year. And again, dude, last year, same thing. Deacon Hill, remember that big dude who shouldn't have been playing quarterback, but they beat us with him somehow.
Well, we were on our third string quarterback and we did not have a quarterback. I still think if Harburg was healthy.
That's right. We were on Chubba those last
Harburg,
2 games, weren't we?
Because he kept trying to run over people and he could not sustain that.
Yeah.
And then we're on Chubba and Chubba was injured.
Yeah.
It was a whole mess.
Yeah.
But if we can sustain drives like we were last week, we can do pretty well. So Wisconsin's on a pushover. They're a little bit better than their record. They were blowing out USC before they gave up.
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
Win.
That was a crazy game.
They took Oregon down to the wire. So Wisconsin's not a schlub of a defense. And we kind of manhandled them on the line of scrimmage specifically,
for sure,
which is something that we haven't done to Wisconsin either in a really long time. So I'll be really interested to see like the line play again.
Yeah.
If our guys can continue to sustain their level of performance that they've had the past couple weeks, I think we win easily.
Yeah.
And I really do say that.
That's a possibility in this game for sure.
It's literally down to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah.
Because I think we have better skill guys as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
They're what is his name? It was not Gooden.
Oh, who for us?
For Iowa, they're the running back.
Oh,
Goodson.
Hang on. The Iowa running back.
Yeah. No. So I know for a fact he is really, really good runner.
Caleb Johnson.
Yeah. So they've had him for a couple of years now.
Yeah.
And he's definitely going to be a
pro
player.
He gets like 50 plus carries a game though. It's crazy.
I know, but if you see his runs, like,
well, I don't know. To be fair, is he getting 50 plus carries or do they just run the ball 50 plus times? That makes sense. Okay, that makes sense.
But you see him running, and he's hard to bring down. He's a little bit shifty. He does have some breakaway speed. Yeah. So he's definitely somebody to watch. But as a whole, I think we have better skill players.
Yeah.
On the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, for sure. Wisconsin had better skill players than Iowa on the offensive side of the ball. They did. Their receiving core was better than Iowa's. Even without Hunter Waller or what was the receiver's name? Anyway, even without their main receiver. But I will say, devil's advocate, as far as the Wisconsin thing, making a sort of assumption about our offensive line based on that. I agree. We played good, and I agree. It is Wisconsin, and they're generally a trenches team. So yeah. But what if I specifically argued about Wisconsin in the last 2 years? Right? They're doing the 2004 Nebraska right now, right? Yeah.
They're trying to change their whole identity.
Right. Fickle is their Callahan. So who the hell knows really what they are right now at this moment on the trenches? But what I will say is Iowa is who they have always been. So this week will definitely be a much more definitive test for our line.
There are two things that the seniors specifically want. Well, probably three things that the seniors wanted to do this year, as far as like teams they wanted to beat. Number one had to be Colorado, just because of all the trash talk that was unwarranted, and just the disrespect that they were shown the previous year. They wanted that one. The second one was definitely Wisconsin, because they had never won. The people in that room never have beaten Wisconsin their entire time they've been there. I mean, we hadn't beaten them in what, 9 years?
Yeah. Well, and I always said it too. Like the one time we beat them was a close game. We beat them by 1 point. They eked into then that same year, they eked into the Big Ten championship game and beat the shit out of us.
So that one. And then the next one is definitely Iowa. Yeah. Because Wisconsin and Iowa have been historically very close games, rivalry, because of the West that we were in. Yep. Those 3 games, I think, they had circled on their schedule. Yeah. As far as this one's important. This one's important. I know you don't do that, but you know. Look, when you're a player, you know the team you really, really want to beat.
They say they don't do that, but I've heard this from Urban Meyer's mouth himself. Okay. You have a huge staff when you run a college football program. Yeah. And it would just not benefit anybody if you just had everybody working on the same game at all times. Yeah. So he literally always had his core staff working on the this week's game plan, which was already built the week before, right? By the support staff. Yeah. And while that core staff is working on the main game, the support staff is now working on next week. And then he had a group of people that worked on Michigan all year. Literally all year they worked on Michigan. So like he's one of the great, like whether we NFL career,
morals, whatever.
Yeah, he's one of the greatest college coaches of all time. So there's something to be said there with that.
No, I know. But again, this is a very important game. Yeah, I would be surprised if they showed up, and it was because again, emotional win. The next week you can come out very, very, very flat. Yeah, I would be surprised if they came out and didn't look prepared. Yeah, I would because they had very lofty expectations for themselves this season because of the talent level we had. And even if they win, underperformed in the regular season at 7-5, they really did, because we had so many, again, as we spoke to, so many opportunities to have. Again, you were a big proponent of having a 9-win season. Yeah. I was a mild skeptic on having an 8-win season. Yeah. So we kind of split the baby there a little bit. But I think it's really important that they come out and really dominate this game, just to carry on some momentum to the bowl game, and not let a loss carry it on, because then it's almost like a bye week, and you're going on with a bye week loss. Yeah,
to a most likely December 26th bowl game.
Yeah, so you have to carry a win on, especially when you're trying to get some momentum into next season. If you win your last 3 games, counting the bowl, that carries on some major momentum into the next season, as opposed to last year when we carried in a 4-game lose streak into this season. Yeah. Right. Yeah. So it's just starting off next year. There's already people that have said they're coming back. Jamari Butler's coming back. He's going to get his master's in, I think, criminal justice. Yeah. So good for him.
And the most important part, the fans are coming back.
The fans are going to come back.
I know that sounds crazy to say, but I really did feel like was starting to get to that point where we would really notice it. Yeah. It was starting to get there. Yeah.
You can only care so long, and again, those close losses just are
they suck. They suck.
They suck.
But yeah, I mean, look, it's a crazy roller coaster every year, isn't it? Yeah. Because we start off, what was it, 5-0, right off the bat, or was it 5-1, 4-0 into 4-0 into the Illinois game.
It
was 4-0 into the Illinois game.
We had UTEP.
Yeah.
We had UTEP, Colorado, Northern Illinois. Northern Iowa. You're right. Northern Illinois.
That
was last year. Yeah. Northern Iowa, and then Illinois. So we went in 3-0 to the Illinois game.
Are you sure about that?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'm stupid. Hang on.
Then we went 3-1. Then
could be. Well, this wouldn't have anything to do with that.
Okay.
Hang on. I have it. So UTEP, Colorado, Northern Iowa. Yeah, you're right. So we were 3-0 going into that, and then Illinois, and then Purdue and Rutgers.
So we
were 5-1 after that. And we were all feeling pretty good, right? At
5-1 because, again, Illinois lost. Really, we lost the game. They didn't really. I mean, they won it, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
And then the Indiana game happened.
And the
Indiana game was literally what we thought was a season low. Well, that's what we thought at the time. This is a season low, right? We're getting killed by Indiana. What proceeded to happen after that is a 4-game losing streak, right after Indiana, and a 4-game losing streak in the sense of almost beating Ohio State, losing to a UCLA team that we should have beat, and then almost beating USC, a USC team that was very beatable.
A UCLA team that beat Iowa.
Right. And at that point, after the USC loss, now we're all thinking, oh, shit, I think this new coach we all really love might be on the hot seat.
Yeah.
Because we all do. Like, I think it's like accepted at this point. We all kind of love Coach Gould. He's awesome.
It was like Scott Frost was like your cousin that you always saw at Thanksgiving growing up. And then he moved back into your hometown. So you still see him all the time. Yeah. You're like, yeah, I really like you. But like Matt Rule was like the new girl in your math class that said all the right things, was very attractive, and you always wanted her around.
Yep.
And you thought like, oh, this is gonna be it. But then she gained a couple pounds, and you're like, oh, I don't know.
I'll give you an even better analogy. So Scott Frost is like Scott Frost was somebody that we loved the idea of him being a coach, but we hated the reality of him being a coach. Versus Matt Rule was somebody we kind of didn't like the idea of him being our coach.
Yeah.
But now we're kind of starting to really like the reality of him being our coach, which is like, man, he's just a good mouthpiece for the university. I always can trust that he's not going to embarrass himself or Nebraska up there on the podium by just popping off, saying some headlining, clickbaity stuff.
Paul Feinbaum.
Sure, yeah, that was one. But even then, you can't help but be on his side in that situation, So, he's just a good dude. I like, even if I wasn't a Nebraska fan, just having gotten to know Matt Rule through the media circuit and everything, I would be rooting for him for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So it was just all around. Like, you're happy for Nebraska, you're happy for the players, and you're happy for Matt Rule. Because I like I just said, I really like Matt Rule, and I was starting to talk about, oh no, this guy's going to be on the hot seat. Like, oh no.
Yeah.
And now, that talk has disappeared.
Yeah.
So
again, and that can turn around real fast. I mean,
it can.
I'm an Eagles fan. The Eagles were 2-2 going into their early bye. Everybody calling for Nick Sirianni.
Yeah, man, crazy.
2 years removed from going to the Super Bowl. Has never lost. Never had a losing season. He has the highest win percentage at this point in his career as any Eagles coach ever. Never missed the playoffs, whatever. They wanted him gone, and now they're on a 7-game win streak. They're 9-2, one of the best looking teams in the league. Nobody's talking about his job. It can switch that, right?
It can.
So at the point when Nebraska was relevant, the Eagles were on a down.
Yeah, that's so funny.
It's just
think about how you felt after the Indiana, USC, all those games, and then now we have the opportunity to where if they win out, they win these last 2 games. I'm not just going to feel good about this. I'm going to personally feel great about this season.
Yeah.
At 8-5, winning a bowl game, that would be awesome. That's stuff to build on too. The other element of this, and we don't touch on this,
recruiting.
The specifics of this a whole lot on the show, is recruiting, right? And that, you could just follow it, man. The teams that lose get a lot of flips away from them, and the teams that win get a lot of flips going towards them. It just is how it works.
Yeah.
So it was important in that regard. We just flipped a huge recruit, Dawson Merritt from Alabama, and some people might follow him as well as far as just big name recruits. So this was big momentum builder because those dudes are coming down in their final decision, and that's important,
It is.
But we'll see. I mean, the other thing, really, really quick, what I wanted to touch on before we just get our final Iowa prediction is and this is a little bit more of an off-season topic, but I just want to PSA. They've made 105. What they did was, we used to have 85 scholarships, right? But you could have not anybody, but you had 100 and something people on your team, and only 105 of them could suit up for game day is how it worked. So Nebraska always had 150 people on their team, but now what they did is they said, now you have 105 scholarships, but it's a hard cap at 105 on your roster size, which for a team like USC, which recruits mostly out of state and in-state recruits, and they don't have a whole lot of those walk-ons, not going to affect them a lot. But for us, we're the walk-on school.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going to affect us more than anybody, And so we already saw Malachi transfer.
Yeah. I mean, and think about some of our starters that started off as walk-ons.
Yeah.
Gift started off as a
Bullock.
walk-on. Bullock started off as a walk-on.
Duds, man.
Like
Didn't JoJo Doman?
JoJo was.
JoJo Doman.
So like
Studs.
you're gonna miss out on those like people that have been overlooked just because of probably where they grew up.
Yep. Luke Reimer.
Luke Reimer.
Yeah.
Did you see him there in the street clubs?
Oh, he was there?
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, so my dogs.
But expect a lot of transfers. That's what we're saying. Like, and don't freak out yet because of it. Because we need the reason why this getting to a bowl now was such a big deal is also that there's going to be so much damn roster turnover.
Yes,
that we need to have some momentum going in this next year.
There's going to be roster turnover everywhere.
Yeah.
We're going to see more than we've seen.
Yes.
Since Rule got
we
there.
have to.
Yeah.
He said it himself, and when he says it himself, I'll trust it. It's going to happen, which pretty much means he's probably going to have to, unfortunately, be kicking people off the team.
Yeah.
It really is what it comes down to.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but
anyway,
it is.
Iowa predictions.
Yeah, let's go. So,
Gentlemen, you can't fight in here. This is the war room.
Welcome to Cornhusker Corner with Blake
Everyone
and Brooks.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
And you better bet your bottom dollar that these two brothers know how to handle business.
Here's a hand up the Thunder who gives it back to Mike Stokes. He's going to throw it. He's got a man out. Yeah, 40. It is. Very close. 15, 10.
all right. So predictions.
Podcast. Iowa predictions.
Our predictions. The thing about Iowa this year as opposed to last year is they're not just kicking 8 field goals in a game. They are scoring some touchdowns, which can be concerning at times. But their offense is by no means elite. If you look at our rankings, I think we're like ranked 93 and they're like 112, somewhere around there. So again, we're not our offense is not much better. But we have a little bit more bright spots, I think now specifically. We're right into some momentum and they aren't, at least on the offensive side of the ball. Their defense is still very, very good, better than ours this year. And I think a night game in Iowa is not really all that great for us. Just at the time of year it's happening. I mean, Midwest cold is nothing to shake your head at. It's going to be cold.
Yeah.
It's hopefully not going to be windy, but that can change on a dime. I have us. This has been such a positive podcast. I have us losing. I have us losing. Let's see. Let's go with 28-21.
Iowa scoring 28 points on us. Okay, maybe. I mean, maybe they'll gash us left and right on the ground. But here's my thoughts. My thoughts are: anytime we've played a team that's a heavy run team, we play Riley Van Poppel because he's a redshirt and that he's only played 3 games. So we play Riley Van Poppel. We have this jumbo package and we shut down the run. It has happened every single time. Okay, but
Ohio State's not a running team. But they're very bad at running the ball. Remember, they're very bad at running.
Yeah,
the ball. Horrible.
No, yeah, but the real thing that our defense has struggled with this year has been pass plays, long pass plays. Like straight up, it boils down to that. And the one thing Iowa can't really do is long pass plays. Like they're not going to hurt us there. Like, but
in the past, the one thing that teams can't do, they seem to be able to do.
Fair enough. And that's the wild card here. But I'm just saying on paper, the matchup is favorable for us over there. Right. Defensively, I think we can hold. I think it'll be like they scored 9 points, 12 points total, literally 9. Mark my words. I don't know if I'm about to predict it.
Touchdown.
Iowa will score either 9 or 12 points. Okay. Go place your bets. They're going to score they're going to score either 9 or 12 points. And then offensively, Dana Holgerson's the wild card for us on offense, right? So he's coached against Iowa before.
a decade ago.
No, 2 decades ago.
Oh yeah,
2001, brother.
I thought it was 2004.
No, that's what was so crazy about the statement. It was 2001, and they literally have the same coach, coordinator, and run the same scheme. Think about that. So, like, yes, it's crazy to say that it was 2001, but he has coached against them before. They're the same. So he's the wild card here. I think he's truly a smart guy. I think he's in his element at this point as offensive coordinator. And then I think as far as execution goes, our offensive line is really finding its stride execution wise. They're really getting downhill, and that includes just in the blocking game in general. That includes the wide receivers the last couple of games too. Now I've seen them have a couple, like on Dante's touchdown. I think it was the second touchdown. Jamal actually had the key block on the play, and it was like, yo, there he is. You know, he's been called out, and now boom, he's making good blocks, and we're scoring touchdowns.
Yeah.
So I think our defense matches up well with their offense. I think our offense that showed up against Wisconsin matches up well against their defense. And then I think we finally have a field goal kicker. That was the other thing. And then Brian Buschini, he's a bona fide NFL punter. The dude is so consistent at this point. So I have us winning. It's going to be 38-9 Nebraska.
38-9 Nebraska. Okay. Yeah. I mean, if we can carry that offensive momentum over, what are you doing?
I'm just happy that I predicted us to kick their ass.
You're all giddy. Okay.
Because there's good reasons for it. Anyway.
But see, regardless of this game, I did not want our bowl eligibility to come down to it because
thank God.
We're in such better mood now. Because even if we do lose, guess what? We still have one more game.
There's no blaming our mom because she came in and said, "Oh, they're winning.
They're winning."
And then they immediately start losing.
She did that when 2 years ago.
Yeah, well, it was Casey as quarterback, so I remember it was Casey as quarterback.
2 years ago when Logan was playing.
Was it Logan?
Logan was playing the game.
Yeah, that's right.
And
and he played so good most of the game, man.
Except that the pump block touchdown
that
started their comeback.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, with 7 minutes left in the game,
it
was.
And then classic, get the ball back at the end, and then interception. I mean, that's just how it works. I mean, but it, we'll see. But still, okay. So we've got the biggest monkeys off of our back, okay. But there's still one monkey I believe we need to get, and that is. And it might be even a bigger monkey because I don't think it's one you can just get over in one game. Okay. And it's winning close games. It's that thing everybody talks about winning close games. I think that's a thing where it's like, there's not just gonna be one close game. Ooh, we won. No, we won all close games. Yeah. Like, no. Here, like if you remember Bo Pelini's teams, they would win, they would get into these scraps with these teams that they had no business really like getting into these scraps with, but they'd win a close game. Yeah. You know what I mean? And they'd win all these close games. And his seasons would play out with one close games or getting a blown out. You know what I mean? Is one of the two, literally. So that's the last monkey we got to get off our back. And but I think 38-9 Iowa, or 38-9 Nebraska. Sorry, 38-9 Nebraska. Yeah. And we're gonna be 7-5. Hopefully going to a fucking thick ass bowl game.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, dude.
I mean, so if you are talking about this, we thought we got.
I thought you were shopping for shoes because there's an ad on ESPN. I was like, why are you shopping for shoes?
I'm shopping for shoes. No, like if you look at our schedule, we had blowout.
Yeah.
Close game loss.
Blowout. It was closer than it looked, though. I remember it.
The Purdue game is what we're talking about.
Close game
and then
win.
Rutgers was a close game win.
Uh-huh.
So,
but it wasn't as close as it looked. Remember that one?
But it wasn't as close as it looked.
Yeah.
And then Indiana, like blowout, close game loss,
yeah.
blowout.
So so that is another monkey we got to tackle.
So
stringing a couple of them together.
But I would like it. I would much rather it look like the Purdue game.
Yeah.
Where we're not executing, and then we finally get it together and sprint through the finish line.
Yeah.
Then
I mean, what was it, 3-0 or something like that in the third quarter of the Purdue game?
Yeah.
Purdue, 3-0 Purdue.
Yeah.
Because I remember it was 0-0, and then Purdue got a field goal. And we were both just like,
in the third quarter, and then we drove down, got a touchdown, and then it was all us in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, it was.
So that's our predictions.
Yeah.
I mean,
here we go. We're going bowling, man.
Here we are going.
We're going bowling. Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah, that does feel.
It's been a freaking while, dude. It's been a while. I hope all y'all out there watching this are as happy as us, because you can have those people who are just like, oh, why are they storming the field because of this and that? Like yeah, 100%. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry. You got to get some perspective because like you were I mean, first of all, Dad, you were like 39 the last time Nebraska was any good. You know what I mean? Like, that's a long time. Sorry, Dad. That's a long time ago. Like, I mean, I'll do my own age, right? I was like, what, 9 or 10 the last time they were like pretty good.
So I must have been like 4 then.
Yeah, you were. Yeah. He's the lower brother. He's the lower brother. He's the lower brother and the younger brother. No, he's the lower.
I'm higher on both ends.
Yeah. He's lower but older.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go.
Lower in stature but older in age. That's
stature.
Yeah, in stature for sure.
Same height. Anyways, that's going to be it for today on the Cornhusker Corner. Always remember, there's no place like this podcast.